This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Education Minister Jeremy Rockcliffe has acknowledged teachers could strike again this year as pay negotiations between the state government and public sector workers continue to sour. Instead, the minister spent the morning spruiking the government's education spend, launching a new advertising campaign aiming to involve more Tasmanians in just how funding is spent.
Across the state yesterday, nurses, teachers and even firefighters walked off the job, rallying against the state government's 2% pay cap. Students were sent home early from 63 schools as one of the biggest public sector protests took place. Today, the dust has settled slightly, but the angst remains. The Education Minister saying he recognises the workload faced by teaching staff and is open to negotiate.
We want to reduce workload pressures in the school by employing more teachers and more teacher assistants.
But is that enough?
Frankly, this minister has to sit down and genuinely negotiate with his workforce, not only to build a relationship, but to ensure that we can maintain and attract staff into education.
The government instead focusing on launching its Get Involved campaign, encouraging Tasmanians to share their ideas on how school funding should be spent.
$179 million will be invested in school infrastructure right across Tasmania. What is important is that there is a thorough consultation and we involve all the community, from the students, the parents, the teachers and staff of the school community and the association, but also outside the school community, so everyone can have a say.
Penguin District School is one of 3 set to significantly benefit.
It will mean an opportunity to consolidate on one site and for teachers to be able to maximise the time that they are spending working with students and also working with their colleagues.
The campaign will run across social media channels and through TV and print advertising. Labor accusing the government of trying to shift focus.
Well, I'm sure that Minister Rockcliffe is trying to do anything to distract today, to distract away from the reality that his Tasmanian teachers have no confidence in him.
Jessica Moran, Southern Cross News.
Questions remain tonight over a new surgical termination clinic to open in Hobart. While there is relief, a low-cost provider will soon start taking referrals. Medical and legal experts say the information trickling out from the government is of little comfort to women left waiting months for services.
Months after Tasmania's last low-cost abortion clinic closed its doors, health professionals, legal experts and women are still feeling frustrated and confused, calling for more information about a new service finally on the way.
If you're actually a woman who's sitting there going, well, there might be a clinic here in a couple of weeks, I'm okay time-wise, who's contemplating an abortion, you're probably sitting there wondering now, going, well, do I now need to go to Melbourne? What are my options? Who can I even call? The
government announcing a new Hobart clinic is on the way after almost a year of uncertainty. Despite a long-standing promise to open in October, the government will not release an official start date, only saying it will open as soon as possible.
Our expectation is that it'll be open very soon, and there's been a lot of work to get to this point.
But the clinic's name, location and referral process is a mystery, the government says because of privacy.
There are women who are being put under enormous pressure and strain for all sorts of reasons because this service is not available in Tasmania. So let's get on with it, let's get it started, and let's tell GPs how we go about referring patients to it.
What we're doing is putting a lot more barriers, a lot of obstructions in the way of women who just want to get the information and be able to make a decision about their own body and their own health practices.
Questions now raised about why the procedure was not simply moved into public hospitals.
If he wanted women to be able to access termination services, then any day since the services closed in January, or even today, he could make the decision that women could access them in the public hospital system.
GPs are expected to receive additional information this week. Michelle Wisby, Southern Cross News.
The son of a road worker killed on the job in 2013 has called for action to prevent a repeat of the tragedy. Trent Close told the final day of a coronial inquiry his family still struggled to cope with the loss of his father, Terry.
For 5 years, Trent Close has walked down these courthouse steps searching for answers.
Now, after a week of coronial evidence into the death of his father, he finally feels closer to closure.
There's a lot of stuff that I'm taking. I haven't really slept for 4 days, and I probably look like my eyes a little bit bloodshot, but yeah, it's been a long week.
In February 2013, Terence Close was directing traffic when he was struck and killed by a driver who was adjusting the radio. Murray Higgs was behind the wheel. He was penalised with a 3-month suspended sentence, while Altus Traffic was fined $250,000 for failing to deliver a safe system of work. This week, police, former workers and witnesses each gave evidence about the tragedy that unfolded on Vermont Road in Mowbray.
I hope they bring in the so-called shadow vehicle, which puts a barrier between the oncoming traffic and the worker, and then the workers again. So there's a barrier. So I'd like to see a car hit a car with no one in the car, then, hit a worker.
Trent Close insists his father's death could have been prevented, and he wants action taken so no other family experiences his grief. The final day of the inquest heard evidence that while there were signs at the roadworks, there were not warnings for drivers that there were workers ahead. The inquest was adjourned until November for closing submissions. Sean McComish, Southern Cross News.
A body discovered in a garden bed in the Hobart CBD earlier this week has been formally identified by police. A makeshift memorial has been created outside the Royal Hobart Hospital where the body was found. Flowers and messages from loved ones lining the walls. Police today revealed the body is that of a 47-year-old Hobart man. He was last seen on October 15 wearing a black polar fleece, grey track pants and white sand shoes. Police are urging anyone with information to come forward. The average Hobart house is expected to cost $520,000 in just 3 years' time. According to new data, house prices are expected to rise by almost 8% by 2021. Unit prices also expected to skyrocket to an average of $420,000. Hobart was found to have the fastest growing property prices of all capital cities across Australia, having increased by more than a third over the last 3 years. The data suggesting demand was spilling out to more affordable regions across the state. This year's Royal Hobart Show is already proving to be a hit with young and old today taking in all the event has to offer. More than 12,000 people flocking through the gate for day one, with more than 40,000 visitors expected over the next 2 days.
As happy as a pig in mud, these shining stars putting on a show and impressing the crowds.
The one with the gold lame dress on.
12,000 people turning out for the fun and frivolities at the 196th Royal Hobart Show.
Well, family fun. We work really hard on that value for money proposition, so it's about a good day out that's not too expensive.
Dizzying fun, rides a trusty favourite no matter your age.
It gets worse every year.
I really love the rides because they're fun.
From pampered ponies like Sparkle and Pam to poochers, four-legged creatures strutting their stuff. And there's some serious competition. 10-month-old Webster and his owner travelled from across Australia just to take part.
He's competing and hoping to get points towards being an Australian champion.
These corgis receiving a royal welcome before putting their best paw forward.
Dogs in general, they're looking for breed type and characteristics unique to each breed. When he assesses all those characteristics, he then chooses class winners and best of breed.
If ferrets are more your thing, they're here too, flaunting their form and flair.
Usually they get pretty lonely by themselves. That's why we've got 3 others over there and they play it together all the time.
So what's your favourite thing about Flake?
Well, he doesn't bite.
Agriculture's big at Royal Hobart. Our animal exhibits are pretty big, comparatively biggest in the state, over 5,000 entries this year.
For these Dominic College students, it's a chance to show off the animals they care for every day at school, such as 7-day-old ducklings, Jeremy and Hamish. The show staple running hot out the door, sure to remain popular as the show continues for the next 2 days. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Part of Blundstone Arena was cordoned off today after an annual maintenance check on one of the ground's light towers revealed it was in need of a sudden upgrade.
We just found a couple of areas that we want to do a little bit more preventative maintenance on during it, and I suppose because of the size of the poles, some heavy equipment's needed to be put in place for it.
A spider cam has also been installed on the tower in preparation for the one-day international match between Australia and South Africa on November 11. A group of fit Tasmanians is warming up for this weekend, where they'll be undertaking an unusual fundraising exercise. The group of mostly former defence and emergency workers will be flipping a truck tyre in honour of their mate living with terminal cancer.
These truck tyres weigh over 80 kilos, and this team is preparing to flip them for 2 kilometres straight this Saturday in a show of strength and solidarity.
It's a tough challenge, but I think if you've got the right technique, you can do it quite safely.
Practising today, they're doing it to raise money and awareness for brain cancer, after Private Matt Williams from Carlo Novak's former battalion received his terminal diagnosis.
I can't even pretend to imagine the hardships that this guy is personally going through, even though I see what he documents on social media. So yeah, just like anyone in the Brotherhood, I reached out.
Despite Carlo never meeting Matt in person, he felt a connection through what they'd experienced on the front line.
First and foremost, it is the military sort of brotherhood mentality that we all have.
Matt will also be doing the same exercise with others interstate, with Hobart's event happening at Mount Stewart Primary School.
The team that we've already organised through Buddy Up Australia will all be there at 10 a.m. warming up. People are more than welcome. It's open to the public, anyone and everyone to come along and support.
To donate, visit Matt's GoFundMe page. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Regional Express is pushing ahead with plans to axe flights to King Island. 2 services on Tuesdays and Wednesdays will cease from January. The airline has been engaged in a long-running feud with the King Island Council over airport fees. And now a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. As we mentioned earlier, the Australian share market has tumbled to its lowest level in 12 months, with the indices suffering significant losses across the board after a dive on Wall Street overnight. The ASX 200 index dropped by 164.9 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 70.72 US cents and 108.49 New Zealand cents. Well, sport is coming up next with Tom Cooper. Good evening, Tom. One of the state's soccer referees gets a call up to the big league.
Good evening, Joe. Yeah, he's set to officiate his first A-League match. We'll have more on that coming up. Also after the break, some Mo Salah brilliance leads Liverpool to victory, and Tasmania's best axemen and women battle it out for bragging rights. An impressive knock from Alex Doolan has helped to steady the ship during the opening day of the Tigers' Sheffield Shield clash with Western Australia. After winning the toss and electing to bat, the visitors got off to a difficult start, with Jordan Silk gone for just 1 run, followed by Bo Webster on 15 a short time later. But Doolan was on fire, helping to get the side back on track as he notched up a half-ton before being dismissed by 476. A short time ago, the Tigers were 5 for 179. And Southern Cross News understands that Launceston coach Sam Lonergan may not be at the TSL club next year. It's understood he's accepted a coaching position with Sandford Club at Woodville West Torrens for 2019. The former Essendon player, who led Launceston to the past 2 TSL final series, was contracted to the Blues for next season and was unavailable for comment today. After one of the most difficult seasons in the club's history, the Northern Rangers have pulled out of the Tasmanian National Premier League. It comes after the club lost a string of players at the end of the 2018 season, with the new proposed roster for 2019 also playing a part.
With the 2 new teams being confirmed in the competition, and also what the roster would then entail, being 27 games, that really factored into our thoughts.
The club says it hopes to be in a position to rejoin the competition by 2020. One of the state's most accomplished soccer referees has been rewarded for an impressive NPL season, with Tony Pert set to make his A-League debut as a linesman this Sunday when Melbourne Victory take on Perth.
36, I think, assistant referees on the panel, but there's probably 80 being in consideration for it, so everyone from right across the country was in that mix.
Pert refereed in the English Champions League before moving down to Tasmania to take up a referee development role. And finally in sport, it wouldn't be a Hobart show without a bit of wood chopping. And today, some of the best axemen and women from around the country battled it out for prize money and bragging rights.
Tasmanian wood choppers dominate around the country. They're at just about every royal show, so it's important for us that we give them a platform here at Hobart as well.
Around 600 choppers are set to compete over the 3 days. And Joe, I hope the pubs are very well stocked.
Indeed. Thanks so much for that, Tom. Well, Peter Murphy will be joining us right after the break with the weather forecast.
Good evening. Temperatures range from -1 at Lake Leak to 20 at Friendly Beaches. A cloudy day, partly cloudy at least, with little or no rain since 9 a.m. Hobart 18 degrees, Launceston 17, Burnie 16 and Devonport 15. Flinders Island and St Helens both on 19 degrees, Oosreach 17, Smithton and Low Head 16, King Island, Grove and Strawn 15 degrees and Lyawini 12. Low-level cloud over a fair portion of the state today. A little bit of high cloud moved in quickly from the west later on. Thunderstorms were located over the western interior of the country. Other thunderstorm activity was over northern New South Wales and southern Queensland. Tomorrow, a high-pressure ridge pushes across from the high west of Perth to another cell over Victoria. Low-pressure troughs also part of the big picture tomorrow over the mainland. Winds west to southwesterly at 15 to 25 knots, shifting west-northwesterly in the afternoon, reaching 30 knots over southern waters. Strong wind warning, that's from Tasman Island to Low Rocky Point. Partly cloudy across the state again tomorrow. Hobart a top of 17 along with Campania, Huonville, one shy of that on 16 degrees. Fine and partly cloudy for Launceston, 19 the high, 18 for Devonport, partly cloudy for Georgetown at 19. For Burnie, partly cloudy and 17, an early shower clearing from Strawn, 15 the top and 17 the high for Wynyard. Fine in the east, St Helens, partly cloudy and 17, Swansea 16 along with Port Arthur. UV all at 7 and high. On Saturday, showers over the west and south extending across the state late morning, then contracting to the south and east. Fine on Sunday apart from a shower over the southwest coast. Morning showers for the southwest on Monday, otherwise fine. 30 and mostly sunny in Perth tomorrow. Fine in Adelaide, fine and partly cloudy for all the other centres with a windy afternoon in Sydney. Still a bit of cloud about. Hobart 15 degrees, okay in Launceston 15 as well, and 15 and partly cloudy in Devonport. What great weather for the Hobart show today. The ferret racing was absolutely sensational, and in the sheepdog trials they all got suspended sentences. And Joe, I was very upset I didn't see you at 11:30 for the chook washing, but don't worry, it's on again tomorrow and Saturday at the same time.
I'll come and wash you in a minute. Thank you very much, Murph. That's all from the news team. Thanks for your company. Bye for now.